Welcome back to BSing Sports, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bill. With me, as always, is my co-host Ryan, our seasonal host this week, Tim Brandt. Good to have you guys on. Just so everybody's aware, we're going to be talking a little bit of NFL training camp. We'll be talking a little bit of MLB because there is some stuff going on in Major League Baseball. I want to touch on the Soto situation, and yeah, so let's roll right into it, fellas. How you doing today?
All right, long day.
Dude, I just woke up from a nap, man. I'm not going to lie to you. It's been a rough day. My puppy ain't been feeling well. He's kind of doing that weird, distancing thing. You know that dogs do when they just don't feel great? Shame.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. Dogs get sick, too.
Yeah, I heard that, Tim. I'm not going to let that one go by.
What?
Yeah, the Jersey comment.
I said it's hot. That's all I said.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something about me being in Jersey. Yeah, maybe I could have been in Jersey this weekend. But for those of you that don't know, I have a herniated disc in my back. So sitting down for long periods of time is just not the move.
Yep. All right, so let's fire away with the first situation.
Kyla Murray.
We're going to talk about the Kyla Murray for, what was it, 6 years, $230 million, 160 guaranteed.
$230.5 million. That's key because now he makes $46.1 million a year, whereas Deshaun Watson only made 46. So clearly he used the Deshaun Watson contract as negotiation.
Which, I mean, good for Kyler Murray. I think that the Cardinals overpaid for him. He hasn't, I mean, look, he's got talent. Problem with Kyler Murray, in my opinion, is he hasn't played a full 16 or now 17 game season his entire career. He's small running quarterbacks like that get hurt. And he hasn't shown you. He took a team. Granted, last year he took the Cardinals to what were they, 12-5, and a playoff appearance. But he really just, I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of $160 million is a lot of guaranteed money for a guy who can't stay healthy.
Go ahead, Tim.
I think they overpaid, but I still think he's still above average quarterback.
I didn't say he was going to be a below average quarterback. I'm just saying he wasn't worth $230.5 million.
I don't think he's worth that either. But obviously the Cardinals do. That's why they paid him. I mean, look, they drafted Josh Rosen in the first round, and then Wayne got Kyler the next year immediately. That tells you something that they wanted him, so they're going to pay him.
Ryan?
So I have a question for you guys before I give my take on it. What would you guys have paid Kyler Murray if you are the Arizona Cardinals GM? Where would you have maxed out your negotiations at?
I feel like the 160 he got guaranteed would have been where I maxed out. Not saying I would have given him the entire contract guaranteed, but I think 160 is probably where I would have maxed out with Kyler Murray.
160 over how many years?
6. 160 over 6.
I would have said about 175 over 5.
I probably would have. I think he's a little bit overpaid. I'm going to agree with you guys, but I'm not nearly even in the same realm as you guys are. I'm probably sitting somewhere between $200 and $210 million. Fact of the matter is, this is the way that the quarterback market's going. You know, Patrick Mahomes signed a massive $50 million a year contract extension, and he kind of set the baseline. You know, he's arguably the most talented quarterback in the NFL. And now when Josh Allen signed his contract, it was inevitable. You know, if you are a dynamic playmaking quarterback, as Kyler Murray is, granted you touched on his injury history, but he is no doubt a dynamic playmaking quarterback in the NFL, you're going to get paid stupid amounts of money. And with the projected salary cap going up $50 million next year and $50 million the year after, these big contracts aren't really going to look like that much in the grand scheme of things. So, you know, you look at your Aaron Rodgers, your Mahomes, your Allens, they're like, man, they're taking up like a quarter of or a fifth of the salary cap. Now you add over $100 million over the next 2 years, these guys are getting paid peanuts. So I think ultimately, based on the way the market was going and the fact that Deshaun Watson was able to get $46 million a year, this is a fitting contract. Good for Kyler Murray. But yeah, I do agree that in terms of, just basically his health. I think PFF had him rated as like the third best passer, like true passer last year or something like that in the NFL. I didn't read too much into that stat, so I don't know how PFF actually came up with the number for that. But I mean, PFF usually kind of digs deep into those grades. So I believe that, Kyler Murray is very talented. It's just can he stay healthy? He is very small. He's a very mobile quarterback. So that's the real question.
So my question to you guys is Lamar Jackson, how much is he going to get paid?
More.
$46.5 million a year.
It'll be in that realm though. It'll be in the same realm as the Kyler, same realm as the Deshaun Watson contract. But Lamar's going to get paid, and he's going to get somewhere around $46-47 million.
Who would you rather have, Lamar?
It's a really tough situation. Well, first off, Lamar has accolades that Kyler doesn't. Lamar has an MVP. Lamar has playoff wins. Lamar has been a number one seed before. As much as I don't really like the fact that quarterbacks get tied to a team's success, that's just kind of the way of the world. But the one thing Lamar doesn't have that Kyler Murray has is an agent. For those of you that don't know, Lamar Jackson represents himself. He has no agent whatsoever, which is why there was a lot of swirling rumors very early into the offseason that Lamar Jackson was going to be moved on from the Ravens because, he's self-represented, or he was going to, be very low-balled on his offer. It was a very real possibility at that point, just because he has nobody to represent him. So, when stuff like that happens, it's like going into court trying to represent yourself. It doesn't usually work out in your favor very well. Your focus isn't on football. So I think Lamar showing up to camp early, which is one of the things that I wanted to talk about, is so they can get a deal done.
So I saw something on TikTok about beginning of the end of last season. So the beginning of off season. Why would you pay Lamar Jackson all that money when Tyler Huntley did the same exact thing that Lamar Jackson did?
Did he?
Yeah, his numbers are just about the same.
His completion percentage was nowhere near the same.
His rushing yardage couldn't have been near the same either, in my opinion.
I think he's a super Walmart version of Lamar Jackson. And in all honesty, I'm not a big proponent of paying quarterbacks big money. But I would pay Lamar Jackson before I made Tyler Huntley a starter.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think the gap there is. I think the gap there is perfectly massive. I just think Lamar Jackson, and granted, I don't think Lamar Jackson is like this super tier top talented quarterback. I think that Josh Allen is probably going to be the most talented quarterback in the NFL, but we can get into that later. I think he's far better than Tyler Huntley.
I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson's not better than Tyler Huntley. I think what worked really well for Tyler Huntley last year is this offense was designed for his skill set, because Lamar Jackson is a similar skill set. Now, if you had dropped him into a different offense, an offense that really relies on him to sit in the pocket and get rid of the football, I bet he would not have looked as good as he did. But because this offense is built around Lamar Jackson's legs and Lamar Jackson's arms, Tyler Huntley was able to succeed. Keep in mind, I know he's got like drop issues and stuff like that, but Hollywood was there. Then you turn around, you had Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in football there. Like, these things help those types of quarterbacks. So Huntley, I think, really over exceeded what Tyler Huntley probably would do on any other team.
Okay, so I know Bill already heard this question. I don't know if you did, Ryan. Who would you rather have, Kyla Murray or Lamar Jackson?
Lamar.
Bill?
Lamar.
Okay.
Even if you take the accolades out of it, right? You strictly go on pedigree, ability. I get that Kyler throws a really nice ball and he's got better accuracy. Lamar Jackson's arm is probably stronger than Kyler's, but he has accuracy issues. I think when you're looking at the entire package, I think it's got to be Lamar.
I'm going to actually change my answer. I'm going to say Kyler. I'd probably rather have Kyler. The only issue I have with Kyler really is the injuries.
Lamar's got them too.
Yeah, Lamar has the potential for injuries. I think overall he stayed healthier in his career than Kyler Murray has at this point. But if we're talking about arm strength, I think it's Kyler Murray's second to none. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was the 9th overall pick in the MLB draft a few years ago as an outfielder because he has a cannon for an arm. So speaking of that, did you hear what the Cardinals GM said about Kyler Murray's contract when the press asked him if his baseball career was over?
No, I didn't hear that.
No, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, one of the questions in his presser was, is your baseball career finally over? And the Cardinals GM made a comment, said, did you see that contract? Did you see what the A's payroll is? I think that answers that question.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, a little bit of a batch there at the A's, but they kind of deserve it. Go ahead and spend the money there, guys. But
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
yeah, I think in terms of like ceiling, I think Kyler Murray has it just because simply like I think his arm strength is a little bit better. I think he is a little bit more accurate of a thrower, but the downside is I do think Kyler Murray being a little bit smaller than Lamar Jackson is a little bit more susceptible to injuries. So yeah, it's kind of whichever downside you'd rather have. Really, it's not really too much of. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think it's just who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing Timmy's answer. So while he does that, let's jump completely off ship here and go to baseball because you and I talked a lot about it last night on another podcast. We were, for those of you who don't know, we shared it on Twitter, we shared it on Facebook. We joined another podcast last night. It was Talking Sports with Adam, and his crew
show. It was a fantastic show. He did a fantastic job hosting a roundtable of 6 people. It was a great conversation. Bill was on for about an hour. I was on for about an hour and a half, and it was fantastic. We got to meet a great group of people from all around the world. We had a Dodgers fan, a Pirates fan, a Giants fan, a Red Sox fan, and then we were Phillies fans, and Frankie was on for a little bit too, wearing all that Flyers crap. But
yeah, but it was a good show. I like the collaboration. We're looking forward to having some of them on our show, and that too. But let's talk about Juan Soto, you and I, real quick. So the report from Ken Rosenthal came out today. What it would cost to get Juan Soto.
4 or 5 young prospects are good players.
That is an astronomical. I'm sorry, look, I'm not saying he's not a good ball player. He's not that good. I'm sorry, he's just not. You want 4 or 5 guys that are going to turn into what Juan Soto is, and that's an absolutely ridiculous price.
Well, I think the issue with baseball is, and I wanted to touch on this during the show last night because someone did bring up the MLB draft. I think the big thing with baseball is compared to other sports is where you see, in the NFL draft or in the NBA draft even, or the NHL draft, not to the same extent, but you see teams draft positions of need. In the MLB, you don't do that because it's the hardest league to make. It's the hardest professional league to make straight out of the drafts. So there's so many chances for you to fail that you just draft the best player available to you. So I believe that when asking for prospects like that, if you're asking for 4 or 5 prospects, you're really hoping that only 2 of them become good and not to the level that Juan Soto can play, which is definitely different than the level of play that Juan Soto is giving us at the moment. But I think a lot of that has to do with his mentality, his effort. It's very obvious that he does not want to be in DC anymore. I can't imagine that anybody who, actually wanted to be in a place even remotely would have turned down $440 million. So I think that was the statement in of itself saying, hey, I'm not staying in DC anymore. And as you touched on in a previous show, I wonder if it has something to do with the DC management. Maybe they rent bad homes out to these guys or something like that. I don't know. Bryce Harper didn't seem too keen on staying in DC either. Juan Soto didn't seem very keen on staying in DC. Mad Max was in no hurry to re-sign there in the offseason. So I wonder if there's something going on in the front office up there in Washington. But
let's keep in mind they won a World Series 4 years ago. It was 3 years ago. And right after that, and at the time we can admit that Anthony Rendon was at the top of his game and is playing really well, and he had no interest in re-signing there. So again, there's something going on in Washington, as you pointed out, that just isn't sitting well with players. And I'm thinking they need to get that figured out pretty quick. Now, like I said, I just 4 or 5 players who again potentially turn into Juan Soto is asking too much.
I think at this point in time, because the trade is so fresh, the trade ask is so fresh. That's a very standard practice. As the trade deadline gets closer, that price will drop because nobody will bite on the 4 or 5 prospects. It'll probably end up being 2 or 3 prospects, depending on what level of prospects they are and what team they're coming from. Keep in mind, and I don't know if a lot of the viewers know this, you cannot trade draft picks in the MLB. You can trade compensatory picks, but draft picks 1 through 30, or in the case of the last 2 years, 1 through 29, are off limits. You are not allowed to trade draft picks in the MLB. So that
you can trade the Rule 5 draft picks though.
Yeah, you can trade Rule 5 and compensatory, but you cannot trade your standard draft picks. So That's interesting. And I've talked about this before. I wonder if that's due to the fact that because prospects are such like a big miss in the MLB that those picks really just don't have too much value.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't. Obviously the value of draft picks in football and even in hockey or basketball are more valuable than the picks in baseball. Again, 29 rounds. Like.
Back to the NFL, though. I mean, let's talk about some training camp news. So we got a couple of big names starting out on the PUP. Now, mind you, for the viewers that do not know this, yes, the PUP, when you hear that, does indicate that you are going to miss at least 6 games.
Sorry. I'm talking to Timmy. Sorry.
No, it's not working, and I don't know why. So I bought 5 tickets off a Game Time app and sent them all to Dad yesterday, and none of those tickets are working.
None of them are working.
None.
Really?
Okay, well, you guys are going to need a refund. It sucks that they drove out to Philly.
No, the lady said, I get texted Dad, let me know what's going on. But the lady says she's going to override everything and give him tickets for it.
I mean, that's cool and all, but I want to know what
Yeah, I'm not buying tickets off of Game Time anymore. I can tell you
it's the first time I've ever heard anybody buy. I'm not accusing. Like, if you found good prices, absolutely buy them where you get them. But I've never even heard of Game Time as a ticket solution.
It's another option at like StubHub and shit like that.
Okay, Ryan, you ever heard of Game Time?
Yeah, I've actually used them quite a bit. I've never had any issues with them.
Okay, so I've just never heard of them.
Yeah, I think my first time ever having issues.
Anyway, some big names going on the PUP to start training camp. Now, mind you guys, the PUP going on the PUP into training camp does not indicate that you are going to miss any time. Going on the PUP after they cut down to 53-man rosters, I believe that's actually 55 men this year. I think they upped it by 2 slots. So making the final cut out of training camp and going into the regular season, if you are put on the PUP at that point in time, then you are slated to miss the first 6 weeks of the season. So just because you're on the PUP right now does not mean you are slated to miss any time. At this point, it's probably a little bit more precautionary. You can assume that these individuals will probably play minimum, if any, snaps at all in the preseason. The biggest name being Michael Thomas, once again, not being active for the Saints. It's been 2 years now. J.K. Dobbins is up there. Jalen Ramsey's on the PUP as well. Robert Tonyan, who tore his ACL in the middle of last year, wouldn't surprise me if he started the season on the PUP, missed the first 6 weeks or so, along with a couple other names. So the Browns rookie David Bell as a wide receiver. So there's a couple of big names out there on the PUP right now. And like I said, that's not anything to worry about for you fantasy guys who are the 3 of us and, just general NFL viewers.
Tim?
I don't know what
does Michael Thomas even play a snap for the Saints? I mean, I think it's a realistic question at this point.
Tim, you want to go? You're busy. I'll go. So I do think he plays this season, but I think he only plays like 6 games.
Do you think he gets traded in the middle of the season?
I do, actually. He's already said he doesn't want to be in New Orleans. And even with Sean Payton and Drew Brees out of there, that relationship is not healed. He doesn't want to be in New Orleans. So I think he'll come out. He'll play from like week 4 to the deadline. And if they do trade him, he'll continue to play for whatever team, if he's healthy, obviously, through there. But if they don't trade him, I think he sits out the rest of the season.
Yeah, they sold out a lot to get Chris Olave, too. It ended up being like a first, 2 seconds, a third, a fourth, and like a 6th or something was all the trades that, combined for them to get Chris Olave. So it's clear that they spent the draft capital to get Chris Olave. It sounds like he's going to be the go-to guy, especially with Jameis Winston, being a more push down the field kind of guy rather than the type of, slant routes that Michael Thomas is so famous for. Tim, how many games do you think Michael Thomas is playing this year?
I don't think any.
You don't think he plays at all?
No. He's going to use the ankle as an excuse and then go get traded or not take another down for the Saints.
I feel like if he doesn't,
it's in the range of outcomes, in all honesty.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the range of outcomes. However, I believe because he didn't play a majority of last season, if he doesn't take a snap this season, I think he misses money from the Saints. I would have to go in and look at his contract, but I'm pretty sure that if he doesn't play any time for the Saints this year, he doesn't get paid by the Saints.
I think if they can connect it to the injury issue, I think they pay him. But I think if he's just sitting out of his own goodwill, then they don't have to pay him.
Okay. The new report out of New Orleans also is that the new head coach is going to kind of pull back from the running game a bit and just be airing the ball out. So Jameis Winston's numbers could look similar to what they were looking in Tampa Bay his last couple of years, hopefully with less interceptions, for the Saints' sake.
Maybe that LASIK surgery will correct that.
You're talking 45 to 5,000 yards passing, somewhere around the 30 touchdown range is not out of the realm of Jameis Winston's ability in that offense, especially if, like I said, the report is true and they're trying to back off of the running game and start shooting the ball down the field.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fitting for Jameis Winston. Sorry to cut you off, Tim. Go ahead.
How do you think Jarvis Landry going to do that? I heard reports that he's doing pretty well.
There's always going to be reports that the new guy is meshing really well with the new quarterback. There's always going to be those reports. AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts are working together. They look great together. There's always going to be that report. Now, I get that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are actually friends outside of the NFL, and they spend a lot of time together, so their camaraderie probably is legit. However, there's always the report that a new receiver is gelling really well with a quarterback on a specific team. Now, Landry's a veteran. He's going to do exactly what he's done the last couple of years, somewhere around 60 to 70 receptions in the 800 to 900 range, receiving yards and 5 touchdowns.
I just genuinely don't care about training camp reports up until preseason. Like, I don't pay attention to hardly any of it, and I got a couple of reasons why. Both of their names are Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. During the offseason, they couldn't catch a cold in the Arctic, but all of a sudden, they put on 2 of the best rookie seasons that we've ever seen, and Justin Jefferson continues to get better, and I imagine Jamar Chase will do the same. So it's really hard to sit there and buy into these offseason reports. Really, it's just reporters being bored, and that's just kind of what I chalk it up to. Like, somehow, some way, Brandon Ayuk is back in the doghouse with Kyle Shanahan. Like, how did that happen? They didn't even start training camp yet. Where are these reports coming from? Or the report was Brandon Ayuk is not what they expect. What do you expect from Brandon Ayuk? What I expect might not be what you expect or the coaches expect. Like, just because you're one guy making a report, a very generic, headline report saying this guy's not what we expect on day 1 of training camp. Like, how many of those guys really are? Like, for example, Leonard Fournette posted a picture on Instagram yesterday. He's like 235 pounds, and everybody's been crying about the fact that he's 260.
That makes sense.
How much of this can you really buy? Until the preseason starts and there are reports generated from actual gameplay, people being on the field, I don't care about any of it. Like Trey Lance's arm getting tired. Do you really think the 49ers would have just told Jimmy G a couple days ago that he can kick rocks on his own if Trey Lance's arm was really that fatigued? No. Sure. Trey Lance is just fine. It's all crap. It's all stories that are made up to generate news and, swirl. Honestly, I honestly think it's all intended for the fantasy world, because think about it. Without all that news, fantasy off seasons would be dead.
You're right. So
most fantasy off seasons, ours are a little hectic.
It's money. It's a money thing.
Yeah. So I asked Ryan this earlier, Bill. Who do you think Denver number 1 wide receiver is? Jerry Jeudy or Carlos Sutton? Sorry.
I have a very interesting answer to that question.
My interesting answer is Tim Patrick. No. For me, it's Sutton. And here's why I believe it is Sutton. Historically, Russell Wilson loves his slot receivers. Sutton was on the outside last year. Before you finish, Sutton was on the outside last year. However, with the addition of Patrick, he's going to get time in the slot. There will never be a time Jared Judy's in the slot. So for me, Sutton's going to get more work out of the slot, and Russ Wilson just loves his slot receivers. I'm talking like the Baldwins, the Lockett's to start, and then all of a sudden he went to the outside, and Lockett was no longer really viable. The Metcalf is just a freak of nature, so I'm not even going to talk about him. Dude, that dude is a freak of nature.
He is. But he only eats 1 meal a day.
What's that?
He only eats 1 meal a day.
Yeah, it's called intermittent fasting. Some people are on that diet. It's okay to do that.
He eats Skittles all day, and then around 8 o'clock at night, he eats 1 big meal, and that's it.
Yeah, he consumes 200 calories in 1 meal. But yes, so for me, it's Sutton. Sutton's the number 1 receiver in Denver.
I just got Dobbins for fucking pennies.
I'm looking at the trade now.
I just got Dobbins for pennies.
From Joey, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
God,
I'm pretty sure
pocket change.
I sold Dobbins pretty high to Joey.
You know what happened? Dobbins went on the pup first day of training camp. I bet you didn't understand that doesn't mean Dobbins misses any time.
I mean, that's what he gets for not understanding.
Also, I have Gus Edwards and
I like handcuff
Davis there too. So,
I
but anyway,
also like handcuff running backs.
Anyway, my take on this is Bill is actually completely wrong. I don't even think Sutton's the number 2 there. I'll tell you what. Same offense, right? They're going in with the same offense. Different quarterback who likes to spread the ball around a little bit differently. Sure. When all 3 of them were healthy, the target share was Jerry Jeudy 18.8%, Tim Patrick 17.6%, Cortland Sutton 13.8%. Wasn't even close. I think Jerry Jeudy ultimately is the most talented receiver on that team. I think Russell Wilson will finally exploit that talent if Jerry Jeudy can fix his drop issue. And I think Judy's probably the number 1 there, just based off of talent alone. If he can fix the drops, I do think Sutton makes a rise. I think him and Tim Patrick are very close. However, I'm actually going to disagree with Bill's take. I don't think DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett were very slot-heavy receivers at all, particularly DK Metcalf. He's a true X receiver on the outside.
Oh, no. I mentioned his name. I didn't say he was a slot receiver, though.
But I don't think Russell Wilson really does. I mean, he like Doug Baldwin there. I know Doug Baldwin played out of the slot, but that was about 5 years ago.
Yeah, and then Lockett took over in the slot, and when
Lockett was a Y, I don't think he was in the slot. If I had to look up his stats, I guarantee you less than 50% of his snaps are from the slot. I think they went XY.
My phone decided to do an update by itself. Good times. But okay. I mean, I don't know. Just for me, it always seemed like Russell Wilson was trying to target guys in the slot. And you're right. Maybe 5 years ago, I'm just looking at 5 years ago and thinking of Doug Baldwin and all of his success in Seattle, and that's incorrect of me. However, I still think Cortland Sutton is this year, not moving forward in the future. This year, I think Cortland Sutton turns out to be number one in targets, probably close to tied for receptions, but definitely not number 1 in yardage, but definitely number 1 in targets.
I think if we're going target share, I got Jeudy, and then I think between Patrick and Sutton, it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people want to admit.
Okay, I like it.
So go ahead, ask us another question.
Yeah,
Tim.
fire away, man.
I think me and Ryan talked about this last night too. Devontae Parker or Jacoby Myers or other.
For the 11 games he plays, it'll be Devontae Parker.
For the 8 games he plays, it'll be Devontae Parker.
Okay.
Now here's the thing: is Jacoby Myers kind of burst onto the scene really down the stretch. Mac Jones and he did build a really good rapport in New England last season, towards the end of the season. Overall, I think he's only slightly better than the other 2 guys that are there, Nelson Aguilar and Kelvin Bourne. I think Jacoby Myers only just a little bit better than those guys. Devontae Parker, as a talent, is better than them. As a talent, he is the number 1 receiver in New England, even at I think he's 29 years old now. But he has not, in his 8 or 6 year career, 7 year career, whatever it is, he's not once in his career played a full season. And I believe that this will be no different. That nagging ankle / lower leg injury that he's been dealing with the last 3 seasons is going to crop up, and he'll only play about half the season, is my prediction. When he's on the field, he's their number 1.
Okay.
When he's not, I would say yes, it is Jacoby Myers.
Okay. Ryan, you agree with probably?
I think this is a tough situation because you see it a lot where new wide receivers, particularly more so with tight ends, but new wide receivers take a little bit coming onto the scene in an offense. The exception to that rule would probably be Drake London, simply because there's no competition. But if you look at Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore is established there. If you look at Christian Kirk, the number 1 from last year, is already in Jacksonville. If you look at Christian Watson, Alan Lazard is there. You look at you look at these guys that are coming into new offenses, new schemes, new regimens, new teams. It's really hard to come out and say that they're going to pick up on it like that to where they're going to be the number one receiver. Jacoby Myers was, Mac Jones' security blanket last year. And oddly enough, although it didn't translate, Jacoby Myers was like top 10 in the NFL in targets inside the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he only had one touchdown, and it's the only touchdown he scored in his whole career. But Mac Jones, really trusts Jacoby Myers, and that I could see in terms of targets, Jacoby Myers leading the team, but I could see in terms of yards, Devontae Parker leading the team if he stays a little bit healthier, just simply for the fact that Devontae Parker, like Bill said, is a better talent. But I think Jacoby Myers just has the trust of Mac Jones already and being in that offense, which is also changing nonetheless because Josh McDaniels is now the head coach in Vegas.
Okay. I gotta think. Awkward silence. Someone's talking.
So Ryan, this is a little bit more for our just like administration situation. I think you're right on the Twitter stuff. I don't think it's coming through because I'm getting a ton of follows from like the people that were watching us last night, and they're not showing up as viewers now. So those of you on Twitter who are watching us, if you're commenting, I apologize. I will work this technical glitch out.
Of course, I was right. Duh.
My bad. But I will work this technical glitch out in the future, and I'll make sure it gets fixed. I'll either email StreamYard to figure out why it's not working or something along those lines. So we're not ignoring you.
News, guys. I'm always right.
We're not ignoring you. We're literally just not getting your comments, and I apologize full-heartedly. But I do see the shares. I'm getting the shares. They're coming through, and I appreciate all the shares and the follows and everything you guys are doing for us.
Let's switch over to baseball here because we're already 32 minutes into the show and we haven't even talked like playoff predictions. So coming out of the break, obviously, there's a lot of teams in playoff contention. Let's start with the boys. They make the playoffs or not?
Yes. No. Good. I'm glad we can talk about it. Yes.
I'm super on the fence about it. So let me hear your argument first, Tim. Let's go negative Nancy. I want the veggies first.
I'll give you that prime rib.
Right now, they guess. The way I watched the game yesterday was a bad game for them in complete total. I know it's one game. It's only been one game from the All-Star break. But we haven't got Segura yet. He's the 290 lifetime hitter. We haven't got Bryce Harper back. They're coming back in the back of August. If they can break even before these guys get back and our pitching stays where it's at, maybe. But our pitching going to get tired from holding every game to one run or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Help. And I don't think they're going to go get help at the break, at the trade deadline.
So last night I said the same thing. They're going to stand pat. They're not going to go get help. They're not going to do anything. And then today it came out that Zach Eflin's right lateral knee something or another tendon that I don't understand the medical jargon came out. It's likely that Eflin doesn't throw another pitch this season. With that information, the Phillies are going to go get somebody. They will get, like I said, they're not going to pay for a big name. They're not going to give up a ton of prospects to go get Luis Castillo. It's not going to happen, so don't look for it. However, they're going to go get a guy who's serviceable and only gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. So they're going to get one arm. Then Gene Segura starts a rehab assignment next week. So presumably a week after that, we'll get Gene Segura back. So you get the on-base machine and Gene Segura back in the lineup. And keep in mind, Bryce Harper got –
60-day DL time ends August 3rd.
Okay, so, I mean, that's a week and a half from now.
Yeah.
But it's not guaranteed he's ready.
They're talking about he'll play major league games by the time that's over. His rehab assignment starts this coming
week. Yeah, apparently he stayed in shape and he's good to go. Having said that, Bryce Harper got injured in the second week of June, and they continued to win 3-1 games without Bryce Harper in the lineup. This is a team that's fighting. This is a team that's going to continue to fight. Yeah, they got beat up by the Cubs, the worst team in baseball yesterday. I get it. It's one game. It's going to happen. It'll happen against bad teams. It'll happen against good teams. As Ryan pointed out, every single team in the majors, except for 2001 Mariners or whatever it is.
Every team wins 50 games. Every team loses 50 games.
That is accurate. The Phillies have one more series than they've lost. They will continue to do this, and they will make the playoffs.
I'm on the fence about it, but it really all does come down to whether they get a fifth arm or not. They have to get a fifth starter. I mean, granted, the bullpen's been excellent since the beginning of June and over the last 30 days, as we talked about last night, Bill, but that you cannot continue to run out there every fifth day and have bullpen games. It's just not going to work. You're going to exhaust them. Not even all your starters are pitching well too, but all it takes is one or two rough outings in a row where your bullpen's got to save your starters, and then they got to go out there on the fifth day and give them, have a bullpen game. It's just not going to work that way. So if they go and get a starter deadline, yeah, they'll make it. Just simply off the fact that they'll give their bullpen some rest. I believe with the bats they have coming back off the IL, that's enough ammo for the lineup to get going again. If they don't get a starter at the deadline, no shot. They're going to fall apart in September again, just due to the fact that their arms are going to be tired. And then there's going to be a bunch of people who don't really watch baseball like that saying, oh, well, the Phillies bullpen blew it again. No, we just exhausted them. So I think that fifth starter is key. A Noah Syndergaard, JT Brubaker, or a Mitch Keller, even from the Pirates. I would take someone with a 4.5 ERA. We don't need a stud. We need somebody that's going to go out there and pitch 5 innings.
Yep.
The Noah Syndergaard one is interesting. You and I talked about the Angels last night a little bit. With the one of the guys on the podcast last night asked us if Shohei Ohtani was really on the move. Obviously, we said no. Shohei Ohtani's not going anywhere. But Noah Syndergaard absolutely could. And Timmy, as you pointed out, he's pitching to a 3.6 or 3.6.2?
No, I think it's like a 3.8. Just under 4.
Which is wonderful. That makes him a third starter in our rotation because Gibson's ERA is a little inflated. Ranger Suarez. And again, Eflin's not in the lineup. So you go and you get Noah Syndergaard. He probably doesn't cost a lot. I know he's got the contract, but he doesn't cost a lot. And yeah, you throw him with what's been a really, really, really good 1-2 punch of Nola and Wheeler, and the team looks significantly better. Just that one addition. So yes, I think they go get an arm. And when they go get the arm, yes, they make the playoffs.
Now with Nola and Wheeler pitching so good, that can also break to Nola Syndergaard. Like positivity feedback or positive outcomes feed off each other.
Correct. Winning environments feed on winning environments.
Winning and losing are cancerous.
Yeah,
correct.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's kind of
poor Doc.
I swear he ignored me all day, and then as soon as I go live, he wants to chew everything around me, and now he wants me to hang out with him.
That's the whole point.
Thor is
whining
like
a woman, dude. As soon as I go to do anything fun, he just wants all this attention. I go and play the game. Yep, he wants to play then. Like it's.
But you got any more questions, Timmy? Ryan?
All right, so
I got
way too early World Series prediction. Now that we're past halfway.
2 teams, or you get one total winner?
2 teams.
Dodgers and Yankees.
God, dude, what a disgusting answer.
You think that's a disgusting answer? Mine's worse.
There's nothing worse than that.
Mets, Yankees.
That's not worse than Dodgers.
Oh, that is
Yankees.
so much worse.
No,
so.
No way. Maybe from a Phillies point of view, like Phillies fan perspective, but from like a MLB like nationwide perspective, hell no. There's nothing worse than Dodgers, Yankees.
Okay.
I think the Astros have a good shot of going.
I'm gonna tell you what, man. I don't think the Yankees make it.
Yeah, no. I mean, if I'm sitting here talking about it right here, right now, the Yankees' inter-division record isn't as solid as people think it is. They're winning tons and tons of games out of the division.
And I'll tell you what, the Phillies might not be making any ground on the Mets, but you know who is? Atlanta.
The Braves.
Yeah.
Atlanta is scorching hot. I don't think at any point you could take down any 10 games since June 1st. I don't think they've been less than 7-3 in those games.
So
they're 7-3 right now.
Yeah, like they were down there like 7 back with the Phillies like at the start of June, and the Phillies are like 8.5 back now, and
which is amazing.
1.5
back.
Phillies
have been winning.
Like it would not shock me if Atlanta made another run into the postseason.
So that was my question, and you guys are keep feeding off of it. I was gonna ask, who do you think gonna win the Phillies division? I was gonna say the Braves.
I'd say the Braves. I mean, we talked about this beforehand, and the Mets have done a good job of it this year already. We talked about it in our preseason predictions. I said the injury bug was going to bite the Mets. It did. Scherzer and DeGrom both went down for extended periods of time. Carlos Carrasco missed some time too, but they managed to fight through it. Now they just can't keep the Braves off their back.
Yeah.
And if we saw anything, the Braves, when they won the World Series, they pieced together a bunch of nobodies that came around for them, like Jorge Soler, hit a monstrous home run in Game 3. I mean, they just pieced together a bunch of guys who just showed up. They pulled me, you, and Tim off the streets, and we were out there winning the World Series for them guys. Like,
I tell you what, I wish.
I want them on that paycheck.
But man, I'll tell you what, the Mets on paper might have a better roster. They might have a better pitching staff. Max Fried is really balling out.
Mm-hmm.
Max Fried is an NL Cy Young candidate.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they hit.
They do hit a lot. Like they were down 7 runs last month.
Give me the Braves by like 4 or 5 games.
Oh wow!
I don't think the Mets. I think the Mets are going to collapse.
I
think
agree.
that's what they do.
This isn't 2007.
The Mets might hold off the Phillies. I don't think that there's a prayer in the world they hold off the Braves.
I agree. I think the Braves will probably, like you said, the Mets have a better team on paper, but the Braves get clicking better than what the Mets are doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in perspective, the Phillies, like I said, already pointed out since June 1st, won 3 out of 4 games. Like that was their average, and the Braves left them behind, and the Phillies were winning 3 out of 4 games. Like that's how good Atlanta was playing at that, or still is really still playing at this point in time. Like, no, if I'm really sitting here thinking about it, I agree. I don't think the Mets make it to the World Series. I don't really think the Yankees make it to the World Series. It's probably a rematch of last year where it'll be the Astros and the Braves. And I mean,
I think
good.
they win again. At that point.
Like, what'd you say?
I think the Braves win at that point.
Again?
I don't think Astros are going to beat them.
I mean, that might be the case. You just never know. That's why you play the games, right? So, like
Exactly.
on paper, X, Y, and Z, but in the game, it's A, B, and C. Like that's why you play the games. But for like sitting here, right now, hot teams, the way they look, the way they've been playing, Astros, Braves again are probably going to be the matchup in the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Anthopoulos, the GM for the Braves, has done an amazing job. He signed Ronald Acuna to a very long extension very early, 9 years, $100 million, I think it was, after Acuna's first year in the bigs. They got Matt Olson relatively cheap. We talked about that last night, a Gold Glove winning first baseman who's got a lot of power in his bat. He's just making all the right moves. Max Fried, it was looking like an ace, after his first couple seasons. It wasn't looking like he was going to be that front-end starter. He's certainly panned out. Ian Anderson, not quite at his potential, but he's good enough. They've just made all the right moves as a franchise, and that goes out. Hats off to the GM there. But the Braves, they're just going to keep trucking. It sucks, but I have a lot of respect for the Braves. So they're not like the Mets. I would be super sour if the Mets went deep into the postseason, but the Braves I can deal with.
I got news for you. The Mets are only a game and a half up on the Braves right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I said that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have missed it. I'm over here looking at the games that are coming on tonight. I'm sorry.
My question for you guys, does Seattle finally break the streak? Are they going to make the playoffs this year? They're 11 back of Houston, but they're second in the division. I think they're 51-43.
Seattle. Oh, shit. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Go back.
Yeah, I think they make the playoffs.
They're letting the kids play finally.
Exactly. I think they have good young talent, and I think they're going to stand out, but I don't think they're going to win the wild card game they're going to play in.
They're tied. They're tied for the second wild card spot. So the wild card goes Tampa, Seattle, Toronto. I think if right now Seattle's slated to play Houston if the playoffs were to start today.
Yeah, so I don't think they'll make it out right away.
I could see it happening. I could see an upset happening. Crazy stuff happens in the MLB postseason.
Look at the Braves last year.
Look, the Mariners are 14 of the last 16. They got really hot, and obviously their record now shows that they got really hot. And their division is really weak, so that's going to benefit them because they play the Angels, Rangers, and Athletics a bunch more times this season. Let's see. I don't see the Guardians really keeping pace. And then, we've already discussed how we don't think the Blue Jays are as good as their record even shows. So, yes, I believe the Mariners break the streak. The Mariners make the playoffs.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. Anybody got any other questions?
Nah, I didn't really. This whole thing with the old man really got me all frustrated, so I lost all my questions. I think
You're fine.
I don't blame you, man.
any
That
other
stuff's
blog.
got to be frustrating for sure. But
So apparently the ticket got returned, but I paid for 5 tickets. So what the hell is my money?
Well, the money is gone, but so much. It's good that they gave them the tickets. We got pictures.
Yeah.
They did give them the tickets. But that's. I wonder if 5 other people have those tickets. That's the funny spot there.
Only 1 got returned. The other 4 got in, no problem.
Okay.
But like,
Yeah, I mean the NL playoff picture. Like I said, the Phillies probably continue to roll. The Giants likely miss the playoffs. Then you got the Dodgers, Padres, Cardinals, Brewers, Mets, Braves, Phillies. I mean,
what's the playoff picture right now? Like wild card wise.
wild card is Braves,
Padres, right?
Braves, Padres, and then Cards and Phils are tied.
That's what I thought. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And look, it could
It might be able
remain,
to catch up to Padres.
look, it could remain that way the entire time Harper and Segura aren't in the lineup, and it very well could up to the deadline when we pick up an arm. Like it could remain exactly like that, and then the one arm is going to be huge, and then getting those 2 big bats back. I mean, and Segura's not a power hitter.
No,
I'm not acting like Gene Segura is a power hitter.
Yeah,
but Harper. He was hitting 319 before he got injured. 319. That's a huge loss out of the lineup. And when he comes back, it's going to be huge.
So I got another question before we go.
Okay.
When Gene comes back, who's going to the bench? Stott or Didi?
Didi.
they'll platoon. They'll play about 50-50.
Okay.
They're both lefty.
Neither one of them have done anything to prove that they're the starter.
For me, you got to let the young guy play.
Yeah, sure, but they're not going to do that.
Yeah. Okay, that was it.
But yeah, I mean, thanks for joining us here at BSing Sports. Like we've touched on a couple different times already. We were on a pretty good show last night. Go ahead, check it out. I shared it on Twitter. I think we have it up on our Facebook page. What's going on? But yeah, we have it up on our Facebook page, I believe. Bill has it up on. We do have it up on our Twitter pages, so go ahead, check it out. Check Adam out. Like I said, he hosted a fantastic roundtable last night, as well as the other individuals that joined us. Sorry, I'm really bad with names. I don't remember any of their names, but there was quite a few different opinions, and it was a really good show.
Tom, Quincy, Gina.
Yeah, Tom, Gina. Was it John, the Dodgers fan?
John or Josh?
Yeah, it was something with Jay. Like I said, I'm real bad with names, so I apologize, guys, if you're watching. But thank you for joining our show today. It was a fantastic show. Stay tuned. Obviously, next week we'll have more NFL news, as every team will be back in training camp at that point. We'll be ready. Football's right around the corner. I didn't know the preseason had a smell. I didn't know the preseason had a smell, but I can smell it. So, Bill, why don't you go ahead and take us out?
All right. Thanks for joining us here at BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk